Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with the market wrap-up for August 1st. Another exciting day in the market. We saw a little bit of selling as we have grown accustomed to these last couple of days, but we definitely saw some areas making some moves as well. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Big news of the day, of course, was Apple coming out last night with their earnings report, and definitely nailed it. Really strong day for Apple. Let's go take a quick peek at them. Nice gap on the open, and we're able to really carry on that momentum throughout the day, lifting some of the tech sector here today. So very strong report on Apple's end, which is always nice to see. A couple other notable things in the earnings world. You had Baidu have a pretty good gap down on their earnings here this morning. I also reported yesterday, as well as Endarco. Definitely saw some movement to the downside there today before the open. Not a ton of huge things, but you did see a pretty good move down in that Ferrari. Definitely did not seem to hit the button there, as well as Spirit Aerosystems, another big drop down. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but Apple's, again, my opinion, but Apple's mattered more than probably the rest from a broad point of view. On the earnings front tonight, we have Tesla that reported their earnings after the close. Looks like it was a mixed bag. They missed on earnings per share, beat on revenue. We're up about 5% in the early after hours trading, waiting to kind of see what Elon Musk had to say in the conference to see soak all in. So that'll be an interesting one to watch going into tomorrow's open. That is for sure. We had our Fed meeting today, and as expected, not really much happened. No changes to the game plan or anything like that. Market was relatively muted. Didn't really cause much of a fuss either way. We do have the Bank of England coming out with their policy tomorrow before the open for us in the U.S. That will probably either just be up or still sleeping when that comes out. So you want to keep an eye on how the market responds to that as well. So definitely a little bit of news-driven week, especially compared to last week where it really was just earnings. A lot of bank meetings this week. So coming into our indexes, the NASDAQ was able to pop probably in doing some part to Apple off of the 50, off of its trend line. Saw a little bit of upward movement, not the type of candle I would have been hoping for, certainly not a terrible candle, but would have liked to see a little more follow through than it had. But that's okay. Our trend line continues to hold. We've got a little bit of upward movement. Have a little bit more reason to believe that this is our new swing low here is our new level of support within the NASDAQ. S&P, Dow, and Russell did sell off a little bit today. Really nothing changed from a technical point of view. On the S&P 500, we continue to hold our breakout point of around 28. Which I know a lot of traders are kind of keeping an eye on. As long as that holds, our breakout remains intact. We pretty much kind of closed about on top of the old little breakout point. I don't think, again, my opinion, I don't think that's quite as strong as maybe the 28 on the S&P, but certainly is acting as some support. Kind of dipped a little bit below it, but pretty much closed right there within the Dow Jones. Russell continues to kind of struggle as we kind of anticipated. Below the 50, below that breakdown point, still having a hard time really building any real momentum. And until we do, we probably will. We have to, that is certainly an area where investors are shy, and I can certainly understand why that is the case. Moving into our sectors, loving the way that the material sector is developing. We look at this on a weekly chart, and I think it's kind of prettier on a weekly chart, but we're really continuing to build that pressure within that triangle with that descending trend line and the ascending trend line. I really am happy to see that. Personally, I'm a big fan of that pattern. So Still find ourselves there. We did get quite a bit of selling, and we've really been kind of struggling at the top, on the top end. A lot of selling did come in here today, and understandable. Again, the more we test resistance, sooner or later, we're either going to break it or we're going to give up, right? At least for the time being. Speaking of selling, we did see crude natural gas that sold off today, as of course did the energy sector. Quite a bit of downward movement. And again, this is a really good chart if you're new to trading to kind of explain movement. We work from support to resistance. We doji, indecision comes in. No one wants to buy it right there. We're wondering if we should take our profits right there. Indecision comes in, a little more selling comes in, a little bit more selling comes in as we lose faith at that resistance. Remember, resistance is resistance for a reason. And this is a good example of why we need to respect levels of support and resistance. We're seeing some downward movement. Of course, we're still overall in a pretty good trading range on the energy sector. Now we're just working back towards the middle. We're on the downward swing back towards the middle as of right now. Financials continue to struggle, continue to get pushed down a bit off of that resistance level that they've been fighting with for the better part of a week now. No surprise. One thing that, I think all traders should probably do is, ask themselves, if we break out, and that's an if, only time will tell if we're going to or not, but if we break out, would that be something I would be interested in playing? From a bullish point of view, I can mentally prepare for that. Yes, if I get a close above resistance, I would be interested in playing that breakout. Or no, I'm just not really feeling that. There's other things. If I'm interested in potentially playing that breakout, would I like to trade the ETF? Or do I want to start, going through my watch list, looking at my financial stocks, see who might be an interesting candidate if and when that occurs? We can do a little bit of preparation in anticipation of a potential breakout. I'm not going to bet it's breaking out until it's breaking out. But I can kind of be prepared for that in the event that it does happen. And certainly breakouts do occur, right? So we can be prepared. And you can do that in all of this stuff. That's what's great about these sector ETFs. They can really help guide us into areas that we want to be focusing on, how we want to be focusing on them, whether it's trading the ETF outright or looking at stocks within that sector. These things are fantastic in my opinion. Industrials, we did have a nice candle and a little bit of a close above resistance yesterday. No follow through, right back down below it. So at least as of today, it looks like a bit of a fake out point on the industrials. We certainly have quite a bit of selling right back below that resistance at this point in time. Technology, basically, much like the NASDAQ, we were able to get back on the ETF side of things. We were able to get back on the right side of the 50-day moving average. So we did see a bit of upward movement in the tech sector, which is a positive thing. Again, kind of know where our new support level is via that upward movement, which is important information, at least in my personal opinion it is. When it comes to staples, our battle at the 200 continues. We were able to pop above it yesterday. We're back below it here today. Again, we have to remember these areas are going to potentially cause some troubles for the stock. It's going to be a little bit of a fight when we get to these points. So no terribly huge surprise that we're having that battle there, I don't think. Utilities continues to be kind of in the middle of its current range, back and forth. Some fairly decent swings, in my opinion, at least for utility, the utility sector. I always kind of think boring when I think utilities, but lately that has not been the case. It's definitely been willing to do a little bit of moving, but we still find ourselves in that same general ballpark. Sometimes we're up a bit, sometimes we're down a bit, right? That's what happens when we get it stuck into a little bit of a trading range. We had some good follow through early on our healthcare sector, but really kind of closed pretty flat as the day progressed. So not a lot has changed from a technical point of view. Would have loved to see some of that follow through that we had early, and that was a big green candle. But we did close on the upside. Our pattern continues to remain intact. So everything is in fine shape on that side of things, at least from a technical point of view. We're still hanging around on discretionary. We're still hanging around on that trend line, still hanging around on that 50. I don't think we've triggered just yet. We've not been able to break today's high tomorrow, if you will. We're not able to break intraday resistance today or yesterday, but we are kind of starting to hang around and build a little bit of support there. So it'll be interesting to see if we actually can ever get a triggering candle to see what kind of happens for us on that front. And then real estate is getting very, gosh, it's almost there. It's within a hair, it looks like, away from resistance. So after quite a bit of a battle at that pullback point, we find ourselves very, very close to resistance. Whether or not we're going to close at resistance, that's up to us as individual traders. But it's important that we recognize, hey, this is resistance. This has caused us problems before. This might be a place where I would be interested in moving a stop, taking my profits, scaling out of my position. Or, you know what, this is a pretty strong trend. We're seeing a lot of strength. Yes, I understand that that's resistance. I understand that it might cause some problems, but I'm comfortable sticking around. Only time will tell what the right answer is. We just want to have a game plan, right? If I'm in real estate right now, I don't want to look at it tomorrow and say, well, I wonder why it struggled. If it ends up struggling with resistance, well, it's pulled back at that point before, right? So if it's a little bit of a fight, we should always anticipate that. A very strong follow through off of yesterday's candle, all the way from support to resistance in just a few days on the real estate sector. So pretty cool for all of you guys trading the real estate sector. Like I said, we did see some selling in our crude and in our natural gas today. Definitely pushing to the downside right now within those markets. Basically, as we've grown very accustomed to, silver, gold continuing to kind of hang around that floor. Really kind of tricky right now, I think, for a lot of traders. That's probably why we're seeing so much back and forth around those floors right now. Within those markets, we can see they're kind of building a floor, but none of us trust it. And so a lot of folks I know are waiting for a retracement, but because that floor is so close, they're not really getting something that they like. They want to see gold break 1220 at the least. So nothing's really changed in regards to the technicals within those markets at this point in time. So until it does, it won't, right? It will when it's ready, and we don't control when that is. We, of course, in the dollar, we did have a little upward movement. We do continue, however, to stay within that trading range, at least as of right now. Until we're not in that range, we're in that range. The Bank of England's decision tomorrow can potentially cause some movement here, so that will be something that we can keep an eye on as we move into tomorrow. So that's where we find ourselves in our sectors and our major commodities here this evening. Going into tomorrow, we have our Tesla, we have MetLife. Of course, as you can see here, we still have quite a few companies coming out after hours with their earnings here today. And then, of course, tomorrow morning, before the market opens, another slew of big companies, including Royal Dutch Shell, which is a very large, very good-sized company. DuPont, no slouch either. So we still have more and more earnings coming out for us here tomorrow. Nothing, I don't think, on the Apple level, but very few companies are on the Apple level. So that's where we find ourselves going in to tomorrow, Thursday. So again, as always, be sure to kind of be aware of what's going on, what news is out there that can potentially impact the market, impact our trades, and be prepared and prepare accordingly. Of course, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to any new videos we do over here on the Tackle Trading YouTube channel, whether it's live streams for the halftime report with Matt and Tim, market wrap-ups, any tutorial videos, how-tos, all of that fun stuff. Always have new videos right around the corner for everybody. So be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be aware when they happen. If you enjoyed the market recap, I would certainly appreciate a thumbs up, as that is very helpful when it comes to YouTube. So thank you in advance. With that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, it is certainly my pleasure. I appreciate everybody's time. Keep following those rules. Happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.